Olá, eu sou Gabriel Estrela e este é o AgroAmérica, programa em parceria com o Instituto Interamericano para a Cooperação em Agricultura, o ICA, aqui no seu programa 24 Horas Agronotícias, o AgroMais. Neste programa nós conversamos sobre boas práticas agrícolas que podem ser reproduzidas nos 34 países membros do continente americano. No episódio de hoje, vamos falar sobre agricultura, mudança climática e os resultados da COP26 para as Bahamas. E para falar sobre o assunto, convidamos aqui o ministro da Agricultura e Recursos Marinhos, Clay Sweeting, falando diretamente de Nassau, nas Bahamas, no Caribe. Minister Clay Sweeting, welcome to AgroAmérica. Thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you, Gabriel. It's indeed an honor to represent the Ministry of Marine Resources, Agriculture and Family Island Affairs, as well as to represent the Commonwealth of the Bahamas here on your show today. So once again, I want to thank you and congratulate you on your show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you here. Minister Sweeting, I'd like to start off by talking about the COP26, the United Nations 26th Conference on Climate Change. I wanted to know what was the agenda of the ministry for the conference, and how did the results impact you, and how do you think they will impact you on the future?
Well, Gabriel, COP26 was monumental, from the various events hosted on the side to, as well as the Prime Minister speech calling for the grave concern for action in regards to safeguarding small island developing states such as the Bahamas. I'm in agreement with the Prime Minister that our country can do what we can to mitigate climate change impact, but we also have to hold larger countries accountable for the contributions to the changes, and we have to ensure that humane actions are taken to protect more vulnerable countries such as the Bahamas. The Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, in the last COP conference, she spoke about acting now. And I think that once the commitments that were made at COP26 are upheld, the Bahamas agriculture and marine resources can better adapt to climate change and the negative impacts that are associated with it.
Fantastic. One of the key agreements on the COP26 was exactly the methane gas agreement to reduce methane gas emissions by 30% by 2030, as well as the creation of a carbon reduction market. I wanted to know, how important is this in when we speak about all the countries in the world and the impacts they have on the islands of the Caribbean, specifically the Bahamas? This action needs to be taken urgently, but for you, for the people in the Bahamas, what does it mean to be urgent?
Right. Well, the Bahamas is ranked in the top 10 most vulnerable countries to climate change. The Bahamas air quality has been tested and noted recently as the most purest air in the world. So, with that being said, I think it's noted that the challenges and what's been demonstrated at COP26, that we must ensure that the larger companies, the larger countries, um, adapt and ensure that possibly carbon credits or whatever they can offer to countries and small developing states like the Bahamas are initiated.
Fantastic. And moving more towards national issues, I've been reading a bit on some of your interviews, and one of the things that is important for the Bahamas is to improve the appeal for investors in the Bahamas, as well as certain cases on insurance, especially storm insurance. We know that the hurricanes are a yearly impact on all the islands. I wanted to know, what are the initiatives of the ministry in order to achieve these new investments?
Right. Well, upon taking office 2 months ago, we started initially at looking ways how we can digitize and modernize the industry. Uh, For agriculture and marine resources, which includes fish farming as well as mariculture, it is important that our country is attractive to not just foreign direct investors, but also to locals as well. Unfortunately, uh, 80% of our farmers in the Bahamas currently are over the age of 60. So we have noted that young persons are not interested in farming in the traditional methods. So we are looking at ways of modernizing, uh, commercializing, and showing young persons that agriculture is a viable way of supporting themselves and a means of supporting for their family. So we have taken a family island tour, which would be like kind of like a rural tour in Brazil, to touch base with communities that can have a real impact on reducing our food imports and also in ways to improve the produce exchange transshipment process throughout the Bahamas. So it's very important for myself and my ministry to look into the blue economy as well as the orange economy and to find ways to really invest in agriculture and not just speak about food security and how we can adapt, but really have an action type ministry that gets it done.
Now, talking about food security and as well as an aging population, it's very important for us to include the youth and as well as security for women to work as well in the agriculture and the fisheries market. What are some of the initiatives of the ministry to include these populations?
Well, the ministry has started to include all, whether it be women or young persons, as well as using some of the knowledge from the older farmers because they have tricks, I guess you could call them, that some of the younger persons might not have. So what we've started to do is we've started a national campaign, a PR exercise to engage all persons from all walks of life because it's very important for myself and my ministry that we include everyone. We provide them with the opportunities that they have access to, such as the funding and ways they can acquire funding for agriculture, ways they can invest, ways they can receive government incentives by duty free permits or assistance in farm clearing or anything to do with agriculture because a lot of it is information. People are interested in doing what they want to do and becoming a part of agriculture, but a lot of it is just getting the information to the citizens of our country so that they are aware on what how we can assist them as a government, how we can assist them as ministry, ensure as policymakers minded, and that we are a part of what ordinary citizens want to do to consider food security and to be effective in doing that.
Food security also includes enhanced digitalization, correct? How important is the
Yes, sir.
youth for this initiative? I mean, not only talking about certain initiatives that the ministry has, for example, that you recently have spoken about on digitizing certain services for the fisheries market, but also for things such as agrotourism.
Yeah. So we've started to digitize the ministry straight across the board so that persons have access to the services we have. Agritourism is very important to our country because tourism is our number one economy. We have signed a memorandum of understanding with tourism so that we can work hand in hand with that ministry to ensure that parts of our agricultural sector are involved in the tourist market, whether it be tours or anything that could put the agricultural sector to work along with the tourism sector. So we've already initiated that the talks with the ministry. They're excited to work along with us in finding initiatives that could um, really grow our economy and so that we're not just strained on tourism, but also agri-tourism, which is another department as well.
Minister Sweeting, moving on from the agricultural and agrotourism, I'd like to know what are some of the initiatives that you've been developing with ICA on agrotourism? Because we know that the tourism industry is fundamental for the Caribbean nations, for the entire region, and it's fundamental for the development of the economy of these countries. I'd like to know, could you elaborate a little bit on that, please?
Sure. Well, Gabriel, in order for us to enhance the agritourism initiative, we must also speak about digitization. And AICA, during the pandemic, partnered with the ministry for a pilot project to develop an ICT application to support the work of extension and advisory services in the Bahamas to create an app. And this app was called AgriAx app. This app is intended to enhance the exchange of information uh, between farmers, extension officers, and other stakeholders as well throughout the agricultural sector. We intend to hopefully continue to work in digital agriculture in the year, as well as agritourism initiatives to also launch the app and create and develop a fab lab as well.
Good. And does this app have a date to begin to be implemented?
Well, we're working on it. We haven't set a concrete date, but we're hoping within the year that we can have the app launched, and we continue to work with AICA to ensure that they have the support of my ministry, and AICA has been very generous in continuing to work with us in the Bahamas to accomplish these goals.
Minister, one of the key impacts on this during this pandemic was exactly the resurgence of the swine fever in the Dominican Republic and in Haiti. I'd like to know what are the impacts or what were the impacts of the swine fever in the Bahamas and what are the initiatives of the ministry to contain and protect yourselves from it?
Right. So we understand that the animal disease outbreak, swine flu, is affecting the Dominican Republic and Haiti. So we also understand that this disease is right on our back doorstep. Should any contaminated animal material, uh, products, or live pigs enter the Bahamas, and it can have a devastating effect on our local swine industry. Um, Currently, we do not allow any pork products from the Dominican Republic and Haiti. So this is the first line of defense in protecting your country of an introduction to the virus to the Bahamas. Uh, Locally, we are supporting the pig farmers here. We are increasing our supply in the feed mill, and we also have swine here that we are supporting farmers and where they're able to purchase at low cost rates to really develop the industry. Um, it is of note that the pig industry or the swine industry in the Bahamas could really be something that's successful. So we are already looking at ways where we can develop that part of agriculture to ensure that livestock and swine production is increased to levels where we are able to decrease the imports from other countries. We are also in support of CARICOM's regional policy on the trade on animals and animal products that facilitates and creates an effective regulated environment to ensure we guarantee the high quality products. And this also enhances food safety throughout the region, including the Bahamas. We have a department that is called Bahamas Agricultural Health and Food Safety Authority, um, who works along with our Department of Agriculture vets, the veterinary unit, and they continue to monitor the situation and they will keep me abreast and keep the ministry abreast if anything changes.
Fantastic. Now, one of the important sectors of the Bahamas as well is the fisheries sector. What are the initiatives in order to enhance, for example, exportation of fish to other countries in the Caribbean or to other countries in the region? What are the initiatives right now of the ministry in order to improve that?
Well, currently, we are looking at other export markets of product that we can export, and such as stone crab and some other sea products that could really galvanize our fishery sector. But our main focus is also looking on aquaculture and mariculture to find ways to farm fish here, where we can really create a new market, a new export market to the U.S. and other places across the Caribbean for fisheries that they can't. ascertained in those countries. I've already taken tours of facilities here in the Bahamas that has already been successful in their pilot projects on farming certain snapper. We are working closely with them and closely with other sectors to increase the involvement of aquaculture in our country so that we can not just use what's in our oceans, but also grow things and grow different aspects and species of fish to export to other countries.
Now, one of the important things about aquaculture is also the technological implementation in order to make it viable and cost effective for the fisheries market, for the different types of farmers, aquaculture farmers. And how is this being divulged, shown for other farmers? How is this technology being implemented in the different regions, in the different islands? Is there an initiative by the ministry in order to enhance that?
Well, that's a good question. And what's interesting to note is this: upon taking office 2 months ago, this is a new initiative. So currently, aquaculture isn't something that citizens across the country are really familiar with. So we are working along with BAMSI, which is the Bahamas Agricultural Marine Institute, which comes under my preview as minister, to find cost-effective ways to ensure that we import the technology that can be used, and not just uh, for that institute, but also to facilitate farmers and persons that want to get in the marine aspect of it, especially with mariculture and aquaculture, so that they can streamline their process. I think it's important that the ministry facilitates a lot of the research for them so they can streamline the process so they can start making money right away and not have to do a lot of the research. So I think it's important that we bring specialists in that know how to do it, that are successful at doing it, so we can ensure that we have a successful aquaculture, not just facility, but a part of our industry here in the Bahamas.
And this also depends on certainly an aspect of international cooperation, which can be developed with the countries around the Caribbean as well as other Latin American countries, North American countries, in order to enhance that coordination. Now, Minister, I'd like to know how has the pandemic affected the agriculture and fisheries market in the Bahamas?
Well, I think it's important to note that COVID-19 really revealed how fragile and inadequate our food system is in the Bahamas. And it really underscored the urgency, what we need to do to make changes, to make it more sustainable, inclusive, like you mentioned earlier, with young persons and with women, and to make it resilient. Uh, and this begins with farmers and fishermen and noting the unique set of issues that they face surrounding our family islands, transportation to markets, and access to extension services. So here in the Bahamas, agriculture prior to COVID was really stagnated. Um, However, COVID-19 has compelled us to create policies and initiatives to empower small producers, increase production, and also to look at ways where we can commercialize the industry. Um, because currently we import around $1 billion worth of food per annum. So we realize, and not just during the pandemic, I think even now, we realize the increased price of foods, especially meat products. And so it's translating now from the pandemic to our current state of affairs, where we have to be ready on day one. We must work hastily to ensure that we find a short term solution as, as well as long term solutions to for small island states such as ourselves to feed ourselves. So, policymakers, as myself, and community and civic leaders, the private sector must work together and hand in hand to consider that food security is very important. So, we have seen an increase in urban farmers in our country, which we call either community gardens or backyard farmers, But I think it's important that we also look at commercializing the industry as well.
One of the initiatives to make agriculture more resilient also is a concern, mainly because of the hurricanes in the region. The agriculture projects and different types of initiatives in the Caribbean, they are quite unique to the region. What are some of the initiatives in order to make agriculture more resilient in that aspects, not only to climate change, but to these aspects that can become worse in the future?
Yeah. Well, in order to really look at things of that nature, I think being an island, being a country with so many islands, it's important that we create a network that has not just seedlings but small plants in different islands throughout the country. Uh, Very seldom you'll see a storm that ravishes the whole country at any particular time. So I think us as a ministry are looking at ways where we can produce a network of seedlings so that we can have so many, such as banana plants in Andros, as well as Inagua. So if a storm happens to hit Andros, then we have seedlings in Inagua that we can ship right away to get the agricultural sector up in that island producing as soon as possible. I think that as a ministry, we have to prepare, but we also have to also be aware and be putting measures in place now to, in the instance that it happens, that we are able to get the seedlings to the different areas or the plants to the different sectors of the islands to get the agricultural farms up right away.
Not only with the increased food price, but also transportation and marine transportation has increased their cost this year. And hence, I can imagine how this has been impactful for the Caribbean countries. And so there needs to be a coordination of the small shipments within the region in order to create this network, as you said, between different Caribbean nations. How important is cooperation with larger nations and the small nations in order to make this network impactful? But looking towards the COP26 agreements in order for the larger countries also to have their input, not only financially, but to take part in this coordination. How important is this for the exportations and for these markets in the Caribbean?
Well, Gabriel, I'm reminded of a phrase that says, "No man is an island," and in the same token, no country is unto itself. So we need to enhance our relations through CARICOM and through other larger countries to ensure that not just transshipment, but also with food supply, and I think that's where corporations such as AICA and CARDI can help to facilitate a lot of these relationships. I was speaking with FAO the other day, and we were speaking about the same uh, contents and line of question in regards to forming these relationships to enhance not just our food security in the Bahamas, but to enhance our relationships in regards to new technologies and uh, finding new ways of creating a reliance on agriculture. So relationships is very important. I go work very hard within this ministry to ensure that we not just continue the relationships we have, but to enhance those relationships so that we can find ways to bring new solutions and new ideas to our agricultural sector.
Fantastic. Minister Clay Sweeting, I'd like to thank you so much for your participation in AgroAmérica today. I'm sure that we have much work to do in order to improve the food systems and also the trade systems of agriculture in the Caribbean. Thank you so much once more for your participation.
Thank you, Gabriel. Appreciate it.
E no AgroAmérica de hoje, nós conversamos com o ministro da Agricultura e Recursos Marinhos das Bahamas, Clay Sweeting. Conversamos sobre agricultura resiliente, suinocultura e também o impacto das resoluções da COP26 na agricultura e nos sistemas agrícolas das Bahamas. Muito obrigado pela audiência e até mais.